It's not like AI that's going to replace people. I think it's going to be AI-enabled people who are going to replace people who are actually, AI laggards. I think we'll be able to do 10 times as much work in the future as we can do today. That doesn't mean that we have to work less. I think the history points more to that, we figure out new things, to do. We're going to all have this amazing team of agents around us that are going to actually not only take care of most of our work, they understand who we are, what we do, but they're also going to actually help us, get better. Take a CEO of a company, they've got an amazing team of people around them. Can come right out of the school and you'll have that luxury.
All right, welcome everyone. My guest today is Arvind, the CEO of Glean. Arvind believes that every employee should have their own team of AI agents to help them get work done. And Glean, I believe, recently passed 100 million ARR. So super excited to talk to Arvind about the future of work and his top product lessons from building Glean. Welcome, Arvind.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Arvind, you've had a really long career. You've done multiple startups. You worked at Google for a long time. In big tech, I'm going to start like a provocative question, right? So in big tech, you have all these layers of management, and then every person has like a very specific role on the team. And do you think all this stuff will change fundamentally with AI or AI agents, or how will the work environment evolve?
Well, AI is certainly going to change how everyone works, whether you are in a startup or a small company or in a large enterprise. I think one thing that's also going to be the case for the future is the work that we do today. That kind of work, I think we'll be able to do 10 times as much work in the future as we can do today. It's the same thing as, well, if you had to sort of add and subtract numbers, with the calculator, we can go much faster than we could do it manually. The same thing is going to happen with most of our work today. All these manual things that you work on, AI will be able to actually handle those for us. That doesn't mean that, we have to work less. I think the history points more to that, we figure out new things, to do. We figure out how to build more advanced, technologies and products. But certainly, there's a big change coming. And I think now coming back to your question, in startup, you tend to have broader roles. For example, at the companies, that I've started, when we start, I play a lot of different roles. I'm the IT person, I'm the HR person, I'm also a developer, I'm also a salesperson, I've been a BDR. And so there's less specialization in startups, more in large company. And what does AI do to that? I don't have a direct answer to that, but one thing that I do feel is that a lot of the tasks, across these functions are something that AI will be able to do. So in that sense, you can imagine a person who has a primary role of let's say being a developer, he has a lot of mileage through AI to do a bunch of other things, which, you had to have other people to do in the past.
It's almost like, everyone will kind of become a manager of AI agents. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I think it's the concept that I'm really excited about. And I think I'll give you a real world example. Take a CEO of a company, they've got an amazing team of people around them. They got their chief of staff, they got, maybe one or two, assistants, they got this executive team, that is super capable. And then also have a coach, is constantly guiding, you to be a great CEO. And all of that help around you, obviously allows you to actually make a much, much bigger impact on the company than if you're an individual contributor in some ways, because, you have these multiplier forces coming and helping you. Similarly, go into a non-work scenario, take a tennis player, Roger Federer, he goes and plays, with a racket and a ball on the court, and I do the same. But he has a team of 50 people around him, that's, who are making sure that, he's well practiced, that he's the right coaching to figure out how to actually play this match properly. And he has a world-class performance and I don't, right? And is that concept, when you come back into AI, everybody is going to have a different experience in the future. We're going to all have this amazing team of agents around us that are going to actually not only, take care of most of our work, they understand who we are, what we do, but they're also going to actually help us, get better. They will act as our coaches. And so that's the future we're looking at. And you can come right out of the school and you'll have that luxury. You don't have to wait for many years for that to happen.
This episode is brought to you by Merge. Product leaders cringe when they hear the word integration. They're not fun for you to build, launch, or maintain, and they probably aren't what led you to product work in the first place. Luckily, the folks at Merge are obsessed with integrations. They build a single API that helps SaaS companies launch over 200 integrations in weeks, not quarters. Think of Merge like Plaid, but for B2B SaaS. Companies like Ramp, Drata, and Electric use Merge to access their customers' accounting data for bill reconciliation, file storage data for searchable databases, and HRIS data for auto-provisioning access for their customers' employees. If you need AI-ready data for your SaaS product, then Merge is also the fastest way to get it. So, if you want to solve your company's integration dilemma once and for all, book a meeting and receive a $50 Amazon gift card when you attend. That's merge.dev/Peter Yang. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, I have a Claude project where I've given it way too much personal information about myself, and then, and then I just check in with it every 3 months, and it gives me like specific advice on what I should do. It's like a very nice personal coach, I think. Yeah. So, a lot of people listening to this are like product managers, and like product managers, they have to do a lot of internal alignment. They have to make a bunch of documents, artifacts. Do you think this role is like well positioned for the future? Like, do you think like how, even in your own company, right? Like for the PMs, like how do you get them to upskill for this AI agent future?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, first, in our own company, the product managers are actually very heavy users of AI. And, in Glean, when you think about Glean, like just for context, you can think of us as a more like enterprise or more powerful version of ChatGPT inside your company. Like, it's able to actually help you with all the knowledge of the world it has, through models and web search, but it's also able to actually help you with all the internal knowledge that it's connected to answer questions for you, help you with whatever tasks that you're working on. But then we also have this agent platform, where you can actually go and, build specific agents for like specific day-to-day processes that you have. So that agents, so people build agents in Glean. You can build agents for yourself, you can build agents for your department. And what I was saying was that when we look at how many agents a product manager is using in our company, that's the highest, across all the different functions, take engineers, product managers, salespeople, support people. They're doing the most. And why? Because I think, their job is constantly about working with information, working with, data that's being generated by by different people within your organization, from your customers, from your product usage. And you have to actually make data-driven decisions, knowledge-driven decisions all the time. So a simple example I'll give you, how do you decide on what features to prioritize? This is a process that in our company, it has gotten reinvented, with agents. And so before, in an enterprise software company, the way you decide, how to prioritize, some of the new work and features is that you'll work with some of your most important customers. You would look at you'd sort of learn from them, what are the key things they're looking at. And then you'll do this research, over data, across 10 or 15 meetings, that you would do, and then build a roadmap based on that. But now what our team does is that, they have access to all the customer conversations that have ever happened in the company. And we have thousands and thousands of them. And, they have built this agent, which actually goes and listens to all of those call recordings, that we've had with customers. And the agent is instructed to basically listen for any requirements, any sort of new features that the customer is asking for, and and then basically collect that. After that, the agent is instructed to classify those requests into different themes. You come up with maybe 6 or 7 different themes, and I put those feature requests in that. And then you sort of create this big, huge spreadsheet with all the feedback from all the calls. And then you ask the agent to also summarize, synthesize, and say hey, pick the top themes, and so it does all of that work for you. And, and this is something that you couldn't do before, right? Before you had to work with limited set of information. You could only meet a few number of people. And now, they're able to leverage, from this collective knowledge that's, sitting in the organization, which was completely untapped, before AI, but now you can tap into it. So that's how our team is now doing roadmap planning. They feel a lot more confident.
Yeah, because then you can spend that time thinking instead of just trying to gather all the information.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I do something pretty similar. When I write a PRD, I maybe I got too lazy or something, but I have this customer community that I've talked to, and I just ask them some questions hey, what kind of problem you have, what kind of solutions you want, and then I have a template to just draft the PRD. I don't actually draft from scratch. Yeah. But it's definitely helped a lot there. You know what? I think Roblox actually has Glean, but I don't think I've ever used the agent thing before. I think I've been missing out. So you can actually create these agents that just like automatically every day, just like summarize information for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can, yeah, so agents can, the way you build agents in Glean is like, first, like, it's trivial to build an agent. Like, you don't need to be actually a developer or a product manager. Like, you could be a salesperson and you can just describe a piece of work that you do, like, something that you are bothered by, like, you feel is too tedious, like, and so you just go in natural language to describe to Glean that, hey, this is the work that I do, and can you do it for me from now on? Like, that's basically, as simple as that. And then Glean will build that agent. It's already connected with your enterprise systems and data. So it's actually able to, provide the right data and access to that agent, use the power of LLMs, and then also, like, take actions into those different systems, to sort of complete the piece of work. And now look, when you look at these agents, there are two types of them. Like, one of them is like, something that's, a person uses, like, they, like, I go to an agent and I ask it to do some work for me. And there could be another type of agent, which just runs in the background autonomously, like maybe based on some triggers, right? Like, for example, like every time there's a new lead, that comes, into your marketing system, I'll do a whole bunch of work and, like, like enhance that lead with some information or whatnot, right? So you can, like, yeah, you can have agents of both types, in Glean.
Okay. So the latter one is kind of like a Zapier, but for like internal, company stuff, right? It's kind of like workflows.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think like Zapier is actually, like, they have very extensive set of actions library, and but an agent is a little bit more than actions library. Like, it's actually, there's a lot of, like, logic and thinking, and, like, so when you think about an agent and how you represent an agent, there are some parts of that agent process, which are about reading information from enterprise systems. Some of it is about, like, taking actions into those systems. But then a lot of it is about thinking and doing analysis and synthesis. And that's where the AI shines. And then that's the new thing. Like, when you think about automation in the enterprise, like, now you're able to automate things which, we definitely needed humans in the past because of the requirement for intelligence.
Makes sense. So let's talk a little about like enterprise adoption of AI. So like I recently tweeted that, like, it went viral, but like the tweet was like, startups have an advantage over big tech just because they're allowed to use all the AI tools available. And like, why do you think some companies have been so slow to adopt this stuff? Like, is it security or it just takes a while?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So large enterprises, I think it takes time, like, longer time for them to adopt some of the AI technologies. Even for us, like, as a company that serves large enterprises, we had to be very careful in terms of what technologies we use inside our company. And because ultimately, like, if something bad happens, like, like, we are risking, like, our customers in some ways, right? So I think there is a natural friction, like, as like security is definitely like one of those key points of friction, like, in terms of how do you make sure that your AI is safe when you build these agents, that you are actually respecting, the governance requirements, the security and the permissions architecture of your enterprise. Like, don't expose, information even internally, like, of course not externally, but even internally, don't expose information to your employees that they should not be, like, reading, that they should not have access to, right? A lot of enterprise data is private in nature. So you have to sort of solve that. So that's definitely one factor. And, like, as AI is taking off, like, there are, like, new types of security attacks for AI. Like, you have prompt, you can be, you can be susceptible to prompt injection attacks. And so you have to, like, when you build these platforms, you need to make sure that, like, everything is done in a, like, in a button down manner with the right security controls. But that's only one of the challenges. Like, there are other challenges. Like, one of them I would say is inertia. And, you, like, in a large enterprise, like, business processes are more solidified. Like, you have certain way of doing things, and humans don't want to change. Like, we, like, like, let's say that I have a busy, work schedule. Like, like, I've come in and I have to, like, finish like 10 different things in the day. Like, I don't have the time to actually think about how I'm going to do this thing differently with AI. Like, I just don't, like, I'm always just, it's like, you're on the treadmill, you're going to fall behind if you start to think, and so you also have to battle that. Like, and, like, when you're starting a new company, you're in the reverse situation. Like, you don't have people, you don't have processes. And, well, like, you need to actually figure out how to get things done, and you use the modern tools because they're better than and this have the promise of like helping you with your business processes without requiring people or so I think that's the divide. So that's a big factor too, which is often underestimated. You have to when you think about AI as a large enterprise, like first thing you have to do is you have to educate people. Like you have to actually AI today feels inaccessible. Like if I'm a HR person and you ask me that, hey, use an AI tech or build an agent, they'll say like, what are you talking about? I've never built anything like that. That seems like technology.
Yeah.
Right. And so you have to sort of get to that, train your workforce, give them, some basic fundamental AI tools, like let them use ChatGPT or let them use Glean, which is a more, more enterprise, focused product of the same nature. And once they start to get comfortable, once they know how to use AI, then they will actually both drive that demand for more products and actually adopt and embrace them. So anyway, so those are some of the things that we see as roadblocks. And then finally, of course, people are confused. There are, as if you're a CIO of a large enterprise, you're being bombarded and pitched by thousands of startups and large companies, because every company, whether you're a startup or a company that's been around for 50 years, you are an AI company today. You have AI products, and there is a lot to sort of choose from. And it's not, these decisions are not easy. People don't know, enterprises, they also have to be careful. They have to think long term. One of the things that I hear a lot is they don't know what LLM providers are going to win. Who's going to be winner in the AI space. They don't know what startups are even going to be around in a year or two. So in that sort of dynamic industry, how do you make big decisions and replace, transform your business processes, with products that may not be around next year, right? So these are the practical considerations, which makes enterprises go slow.
Yeah. And there's also for example, something as simple as using AI to take notes during meetings.
Yeah.
For a random employee like me, it sounds like a great idea. Why don't we have it? But there could be certain meetings that are very sensitive, maybe employees getting laid off or something. You don't want all that stuff recorded necessarily. So maybe as someone building products for enterprises, you want to build the right controls, right? That maybe consumer products don't think about. And in terms of getting enterprise adoption, OpenAI and all these other companies are also trying to get enterprise adoption, right? So what has been Glean's secret sauce? Is it just everything you just talked about, or is there something that, yeah?
Well, I mean, there are two parts to it. One is just the product itself. We are focused on the enterprise, and we've been around for a long time. Our product is 3 times as much older as any other product out there. We've been building this for the last 6 years. And part of our product has been connecting with all of our enterprise systems, data, knowledge, and it's the largest application of AI today anyway. When you think about AI, what are people trying to do? Number one, they're trying to use it as an assistant, that can actually help you with knowledge. They can actually answer questions for you. So that's a product that we built over a long time. So we fit right into the most successful domain for AI right now in the enterprise. But also the other thing that that we believe is necessary for adoption in the enterprise is that this is not a technology that's easy to use, and you can't just build products and just ship them, throw them over the fence to your customers and expect them to drive full success with it. You also you have to build a collaborative go-to-market motion. And so we do that. We have a large enterprise team, go-to-market team, and, with a lot of, solution specialists, AI outcomes, engineers that we have, that work closely with, our customers, understand, their key business problems, build a roadmap with them on AI for the next 1 year and then execute on it together. So a lot of it is also just that focus again on the enterprise and thinking of this as a people business, not a, I'm only a software and technology business and I build something and now you have to figure out how to use it. That's not the approach we take.
Yeah, because a chat is just a very horizontal tool, right? Who knows what we're going to put in the chat box? It all depends on. Interesting.
You make an interesting point there, actually, by the way. A search or a chat product is easy, right? In the sense that, it's a blank box. Go ask any question. But actually, it turns out that it's actually super hard. A lot of people actually have no context or orientation of what AI can actually do for you.
Yeah.
And so we used to actually, take pride in giving you a very clean interface where there's nothing on the page, like besides a box. And, you can just type into that box. And we realize that, people are not using it. Like, they're not figuring out, like, what can be done. And so since then, like, we've taken a lot more proactive approach. And, AI education has become like, the key theme for us. Like, we understand, like, user when they come to our product, we know who they are. And like now based on their role, based on like how much, they've, used, the product and AI, we start to now sort of, try their education for them. We prompt them, we suggest, things, for them to try out. And that has proven to be actually very, very powerful.
I think at every company, there are these like AI evangelists or people who are power users of the stuff. And, like speaking to them, like how can they actually try to drive, let's say they're not a CEO, they're just like an employee.
Yeah.
So how can they try to drive the rest of the company to actually use the stuff? Maybe your strategy is to partner with them to get adoption of Glean or these other tools, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you?
Yeah, I mean, like, we absolutely need those. Like, every company will have a small fraction of people, like, who are those AI enthusiasts. They want to be on the frontier. They're the ones making very interesting discoveries. One thing that I want to make clear, I don't think anybody in the world really understands what the current models can do for us, all the capabilities that they have, because you can only figure it out, as you put them to task, as you sort of ask them to do things. And like that's where discoveries happen, like, that the model is actually pretty good at doing certain type of, tasks for you. And then for that, you need, those folks like who are the enthusiasts and who are going to try things out. And, they're going to see, very bad response, from AI, and they're going to tweak it and they're going to work it. And ultimately they get to a good place where they've prompted the model in a particular way and it has done something magical for them. And when that happens, that's the time when you want to make sure that, the product that they're using allows, makes it really easy for them to share that discovery with the rest of, the
team,
of the workforce. So, in Glean, we've taken this approach of, we have a prompt library and an agent library, and everybody can sort of tinker, build agents, build prompts. When something cool happens, they get to share it with, with other people in the company. And then we figure out, like, how we take that big library, that the enthusiasts are building, that those evangelists are building, and make sure that, in an effective way, we are bringing it to people who are going to benefit from that work.
Yeah, I love that. Like I was using Gemini the other day, and they have these gems they can make, right, with my, advanced prompts, but they forgot to do the feature to let me share my prompts with my coworkers. So it's like, what's the point? Like, it's like, that's like a critical feature to have.
That's right. Yeah.
What about like, so, as you said, data is king, right? When it comes to AI products, like if you have shitty data, your AI product is not gonna be good. But like the company, like internal data, like a lot of times is kind of bad, man. Like, some of the documents are out of date, or like, there's like half complete stuff. How do you even know what's good? Like,
yeah. That's a big problem. That's a big problem. And actually it's not as if like internal data is worse. Like, the data on the internet is also like, of the same nature. Like a lot of it is obsolete information. And you have to, like, that's the thing that you have to actually understand and work with. Like, we've seen two approaches. Some enterprises saying that, oh, like, I'm not ready for AI today, and I'm going to actually go and first clean my knowledge, because, they tried all these, POCs with, different AI products, and they didn't work well. And many of those products came back and told the customers that, well, your data is bad and therefore AI is bad, right? But that's not the right approach. Like, I don't think you can ever fix your data. You can, like, in the sense that, data gets produced over a long period of time, it's naturally going to become out of date, and some data is going to be of high quality because it's written by a good writer or a subject matter expert. Some of it is not. Like, you have to actually take all of it, like, the good, the bad, the fresh, the out of date, the popular or the non-popular content. Then you have to understand that and figure out, like, what's the right information, what's the best information for given any task. And for that, you have to build a really good search system. You have to connect, your search system with all of this, data, and you have to start understanding these signals. You have to start, like, figuring out, like, what data, to use in any given scenario for any given task. And so we, when we think about our own technology at Glean, I would say that a big chunk of it, like majority of it, is actually spent just trying to understand the enterprise, just trying to understand, this issue of data quality, and make sure that, we are, for like any given task that you're going to do with AI, that we can bring the right information to the models and then let them reason over it to produce, great work.
Yeah. So it's like the RAG, or is it some system that's separate from the LLM, right? It's like, given the right context.
Our approach, so like RAG is one way it's a very specific, construct in that sense, right? Yes, like given any task in the enterprise, you do have to retrieve the right information from within the enterprise because your models are not trained with that knowledge. And then you have to make that information available to the models. But the overall sequence of how this works is that this is a collaborative process, right? Where you may pick some information, then you may ask the model to say that, hey, this is the task, this is what I've picked up so far. You want me to actually pick some more data, like, you can sort of have this, engagement where they're doing multiple retrieval passes, in conjunction with, the intelligence that the model has to ultimately then like assemble all the information that you need and then work on it and, produce artifacts that you were trying to produce.
Is it kind of like a deep research or like the chain of thought stuff? Like it has the information and they ask for more information and like that.
So we do that, and I think like you also have to. You cannot always be doing deep research because most of the times your users exactly have 1 second, to get to like what they were trying to get to, right? And so like you cannot be like sitting there like being over smart and like take 20 seconds, right? So you have to like also understand the context. You have to understand the use case, and sometimes you do a real simple quick path. Sometimes you don't even. It's a question that doesn't even require retrieval because it's a general question and the models, core intelligence can answer that question. Sometimes you don't even use a model because, well, your question was so factual and I can just use my, retrieval and like it already knows the answer to it. So you have to pick and choose based on like what you're trying to do.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about like building products like Glean, like improving Glean itself. There's always like, the obvious stuff like, you gotta talk to customers, you gotta think about the problems. But like, what kind of new skills do people have to build AI products? I guess like comfort with ambiguity or what kind of skills do people have? Yeah.
Great question. So first, like, I think like the biggest skill, like, or like, one of the key skills that, our team had to learn when the industry suddenly started to move very rapidly was this, you rely on certain set of technologies underneath and you're building your systems based on that. And if that foundation is super unstable and it's constantly changing, like it's a very hard thing to build, the house on top of it, right? And so our team actually felt that like, stress, like, I would say in 2023, quite a bit, where we were struggling to figure out, well, how do you even develop in this new world? Like nothing is a constant, nothing is true. Like, what's happening this week, the other week, looks completely different from that. So thankfully, like, we're not there. Like, I guess in some ways it's a bad thing that innovation pace may have been a little bit like maybe a little bit more mature or slow. But I think you have to learn that. Like you have to learn, like, fundamentally change your, mindset of how you build systems. Like, first you have to become more iterative, right? You can't actually like, take, 2 months to design a system and then build it over the next 4 months. You have to actually necessarily go, in that MVP mode, right? In that MVP mode, like, build something fast and quick. You don't know whether, it's going to last, like more than a month, right? And second thing is, having that mindset of like not getting attached to what you build and constantly reinvent and take, the new capabilities that you get and like throw what you build. Like, you should be ready to throw, something that you built 2 months back because, well, like, the market caught up and now you can actually get that, for free in the market, like all from the LM's capabilities have increased. So those are like, the main, I would say like the key skills, like, which will drive success now is like that agile mindset that you need as a developer, as a product manager and change, quickly and fast. And then besides that, like, like of course, AI as a technology is fuzzy, like it's actually non-deterministic and you have to learn with like how to work with, systems, which are not precise, right? You have to figure out, and this is like, I would say that search engineers always had that training. Like when we were building search at Google, many years back, you always have to deal with imperfect knowledge, data, information. Like there's no real formula for like given a question, what information should be shown on the top, right? It was by nature a exercise of judgment, right? Yeah. And so I think like, that skill translates well. Like I feel like, folks who actually, worked on search are going to be generally successful with AI as well.
Oh, it's like more like probability based as opposed to, this is going to happen for sure, right? It's like, yeah. Interesting. now, now you're on your second company, right? That you started. Is it second or third? Second. Yeah. Do you have what are your values for, like, what kind of principles or values do you have for the company? I think that's like really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like first, I would say that like a company is not much more than the people. The idea, the code base, like those are all, I think, not the minor part of what makes a company is the people. And you have to, like, when you build a startup, like you to always focus on, like, what's that core, like, who are the people who really care about building this product or this technology or solving this business problem that, we are solving. And you have to have that, because, this is going to be a long journey. There's going to be lots of ups and downs. There's going to be competition. There's going to be, economic, like, turns, like, as, that going to happen. So you have to have that, like, like I feel like, a big part of like, building a company, culture is about having that alignment, with your mission. But in terms of our values, like, our values are probably the same as what any company would aspire to. Like, we want to, we are, we're customer obsessed. Like, we want to make sure that, we're making them successful, because that's what makes us successful. We like to move fast. We want to have bias to action. We want to create a culture of like teamwork. And I think like for me, that's the thing that I really care about. Like, all our cultural values are obvious. Like, you'll say, yeah, of course, yeah, I've heard about it. Like, why not? Like, you want people to work hard, you want dedication, you want alignment to the mission. All of that is true. The one thing that I feel is very important, which I feel like maybe I put a little bit more weight, is on the value of, trust and respect. I think you build a great company when you, like, have that positive mindset and you respect, your colleagues, for one good thing that they do, right? And like, and you accept the fact that they have to learn the other things. And I think that's a big part of, in my opinion, building a company with the right culture and sustain it, over the long period of time. You need that mutual respect and trust, in your workforce.
Yeah, because people, you can go far together. You can go fast alone, but go far together.
Yeah, and nobody, like, people have to realize this. Like, sometimes, if you're really good, like, maybe, you're good at like, engineering, and like maybe you're a superstar and you're good at like 10 things. And there may be another person who's only good at 2 things, and you may not respect them then anymore. And that creates a bad environment. But like the reality is that, well, even with, somebody being, good at like two things, they can actually add a lot of value. And over time, they will add the third one and the fourth one. And so I think that mindset is important. Like, it's very hard. Like, people don't realize it, I think, in my opinion. Like, it's something that comes over time. This concept of, well, like, I respect you for what you are.
Yeah, and it also makes work more fun, right? Because you spend like 8 hours a day with people around you.
Yeah,
you might exactly. Make it fun. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I want to ask just one more random question. So, like, I've talked to AI founders who, like you said, because the models are changing all the time, the ground is shifting behind their feet. Like, they don't really have a roadmap anymore. Maybe they have like a quarterly plan of what they want to do, but they don't have like a 5-year plan. And like, but like, since you work in the enterprise space, maybe you have like, how do you balance this iterative thing with actually having a plan?
Yeah. So in my previous company, we achieved success, like, it's a large publicly traded company now, and it did have a 5-year plan. But that 5-year plan was actually completely useless, in the sense that neither, did we hold true to that, but it never actually had an impact when we actually doing our work. And so, so we learned there itself, this is pre-AI, that like, plan for a startup, plan a year and don't think beyond that. Maybe at the most you may, like have like a rough idea of what the next year could be, like very rough idea, but mostly like focus your energy on what you're going to do this year. So that's whether AI, pre-AI, like, it doesn't matter. Like, as a startup, like, that's the right time horizon. Here we do that, like, so we do sort of come up with a point of view on like what we should do this year. So we do an annual planning, but we're not wedded to it because we know that things are going to constantly change. And so the way we execute is we actually create monthly plans. And the monthly plans, take inspiration from the annual plan, but it allows us to actually be agile and like, we can sort of adjust the annual plan like along the way as things change. But like for all practical purposes, what we're doing we are operating at a monthly granularity.
But you do have in terms of long term, you do have a vision, right? Like a long term vision for
Yeah.
And maybe like real quick, what is the one sentence summary of that the vision for Glean?
Yeah. So our vision is to build an amazing AI team around every individual who works, and this team is going to help them become a 10xer. That's what we're trying to build towards. And so so everything that we do is guided by that, like builds the world's best AI, the AI team, or like which is like the team consists of your assistants and co-workers and coaches, everything that helps you sort of achieve more, grow more. And so that's the North Star, like that of course then drives the annual planning process as well as our monthly milestones.
I love that. I feel like I've 10x my productivity with all these different tools. Not because of my own talent, but just because like I can like outsource a bunch of work that I don't want to do. Yeah.
That's fantastic if you're already there. Like I feel like, we have a lot more work to do to bring people there, but that's incredible. Like, I think like just like, people, I do hear it, occasionally, like especially like from developers, you hear that with the new code gen tools that like, they're just moving so much faster than before.
So any like closing thoughts or any words of advice for people to get on this track to like 10x? Yeah.
I think my main advice is like, just use AI, like just use it more. And I think it's important, like, one is of course for entrepreneurs or for developers, what you want, like what, like, I think thinking about AI, thinking AI first is going to be helpful. But I think like I'm talking about everybody in the world, like, there are so many jobs that are going to get displaced, with AI. And I think like, but I also think that it's not like AI that's going to replace people. I think it's going to be AI enabled people who are going to replace people who are actually, AI laggards, right? And I think because, this is a good technology, and I think like, we just need to, we need to learn that, like, we need to sort of, move forward with it. And that's what I would say. Yeah. That's my core advice.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think when people listen to this, like it takes a little bit longer to learn how to do stuff with AI, but once you actually do it with AI, then you save so much time afterwards. So it's worth making an initial investment. Yeah. Awesome, Arvind. So where can people find you, or where can people find Glean?
Yeah, I mean, like, we are on glean.com, and my email is my first name, arvind@glean.com. Like, would love to, connect with, whoever like wants to learn more about us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much for building an awesome enterprise AI tool. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.